so the person that I have with you today, I'm very excited to have Tara here. We connected at a business networking event in the Bay Area. I think it was a couple years ago now. Yeah, and I just found her to be a very lovely person and very business savvy. So I have been honored to stay in touch with her and watch what she's doing. And I definitely wanted to have her on to this Video Vitamin series to share some of her knowledge. Specifically today, hopefully we'll have you back in the future, Tara, but we will today be talking about how to create successful strategic partnerships. Because I know for myself as a solo entrepreneur, this is something that sounds very desirable and it sounds like this would be a great idea. But after you go through, some just small steps, you realize, well, I'm finding it's necessary to have a strategy and to have a plan and to talk to people who've been there and done it successfully. So I'm excited to dive in today and talk to Tara about her expertise. So welcome to the show. Welcome, Tara.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And so let me I don't want to embarrass you, Tara, but I'd love to read your bio just so people know your background and know a bit about you. So, Tara, I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. I know
it's like terracotta.
Tara. Get it in my brain.
Tara Butler Floch. People get it wrong all the time.
Okay, so Tara Butler Floch is known as the coach's coach. She has been passionately committed to helping entrepreneurs launch and grow simple, joyous, and prosperous businesses since 2000, when she founded her own consulting and coaching practice. She has helped hundreds of clients create meaningful, sustainable, thriving businesses. As a coach herself, she has witnessed many passionate coaches quit their full-time job to launch their practice, only to put their dream on the shelf because they didn't know how to build a successful practice and couldn't do it on their own. In 2010, this inspired her to shift her own practice from executive coaching and leadership team training to helping coaches and coach-like entrepreneurs create simple, elegant, prosperous coaching practices in less than a year. Tara was first introduced to coaching in 1995 after hiring a coach in her first executive role at Lotus, where she ran the worldwide sales and service organization for 4 years. She found that it significantly impacted her effectiveness in execution, her personal and professional relationships, her work-life balance. And that planted a seed that sprouted into her own personal development journey. Sales at Photodisc grew to $150 million in her tenure before it merged with Getty Images, where Tara went on to have several executive roles there and elsewhere before she realized she wanted to merge her passion for business with her love of personal development and start her own consulting and coaching company. She thrives on helping others overcome obstacles and realize their highest potential. It drew her to become a board member of the Excellence Foundation, a nonprofit organization that offers personal development programs, and later became their executive director for over a year. Tara is a graduate, a certified professional coactive coach through the Coaches Training Institute, and a professional certified coach through the International Coaching Federation. She is a graduate of the CTI coaching program and CTI year-long leadership program, and assisted the leadership program twice with the founders of CTI. Tara has a BA from Kenyon College and a certification in business from the University of Washington. She's also a contributor to the book Fresh Start Moments with best-selling author Bob Danzig. Yay!
You read the whole thing.
Basically, you're awesome. Well, it was hard to know what to cut out of there, But
now you know everything about me, pretty much.
Yep, the full bio, which you should, definitely. It's all to be proud of. You've done a lot, and Yeah, I'm excited to just dive into your expertise about strategic alliances. So start off telling us, like, how did you get an idea when you went into developing your coaching business? How did you get the idea that strategic alliance or partnerships would be something that's beneficial?
Yeah, well, you can imagine having worked with large corporate teams. I mean, I had teams up to 80 people, and I was really used to collaboration. And at the same time, when I launched my business, I was super excited to have that independence, to be my own boss. But I found really quickly that I felt a little lonely, felt a little isolated, and that I really wanted to do some collaboration. And I think, like a lot of other entrepreneurs, I started to go out and was like, are you my partner? Are you my partner?
Mm-hmm.
And started to have lots and lots of coffee meetings and a lot of false starts, a lot of excitement, like a first date, like, oh, this is going to be great. And then nothing. And a fair amount of disappointments along the way. Of course, all of this has taught me a great deal that I can help my clients with when it comes to strategic alliances.
Yeah.
So that's really what inspired me, is that I wanted the autonomy of being a solopreneur, but I also wanted that collaboration. And strategic alliances are really the best of both worlds.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great. So before we dive into the specifics of creating a strategic alliance, I think it would be good for people to hear, like, what are some examples of strategic alliances that you've had, some of your success stories?
Yeah, well, one of the ones I love to talk about is my friend Lou. And I'll talk about the 6 C's a little bit later. But part of what made Lou such a great partner is that we shared the 6 C's. And we both worked with the same ideal client and worked in compatible but not competing ways. Mm-hmm. So at the time, I was doing team and leadership development, and he was doing assessments and HR consulting as well. So at the height of our collaboration, we were bringing in over $100,000 between us. You know, I mean, I think one year he brought in over $60,000 into my business through the referrals and the collaborations that we did. And so that was a really key strategic alliance. But I've also had extension partners where, especially when I first started out as a coach, where I was under their umbrella and they sent me clients and we collaborated together, you know, so training companies that needed a coaching arm. And those were wonderful too. A lot of those brought sometimes 60,000 or more a year to my business. And the one thing I want to say about that is you want to make sure with strategic alliances that you don't put too much stake into one alliance. So, and I've made that mistake too, because then you start to become more like an employee. You become so vested when that strategic alliance is 50% or more of your business.
I see.
So it's great to have these, but you want to make sure that you have other revenue sources or other strategic alliances that can bring in additional revenue.
Yeah, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right?
Yeah.
Similar to like diversifying your products and services, it sounds like. So
exactly. Well, just like, you know, the thing with strategic alliances that's different than being an employee is there's no legal protection. You can have a strategic alliance and overnight. I had one in 2008 when we hit the financial crisis. Mm-hmm. $60,000 worth of contracts were canceled overnight. Oh, we had things scheduled all the way through the end of the year. Uh-huh. Done. Gotcha. You know, with no notice. So luckily it wasn't the only source of income to my business, not the only strategic alliance I had.
Yeah.
So I turned out to be just fine. Right. But for a lot of people, they put too many eggs in that basket, and something like that could really devastate them.
Sure. You feel like it's a good thing and it's going well, but you know, you're not having a backup plan, not preparing yourself for what could go wrong, it sounds like.
Yeah. You don't get unemployment. You don't get any of the protection that employees get. You're just gone.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And we'll dive into it more, but it's also, it sounds like a good thing to remember. Human beings are human beings and, unpredictable, like not just the economy, but you just don't know what's going to unfold with a specific relationship, it sounds like.
Exactly.
So.
And that was a long-term one. I had been working with them for 6 years, so it was really surprising.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those things happen.
Yeah. So we talked a bit about the successes. What are some challenges that you would want to look out for in creating your strategic alliances?
Well, I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, there are two challenges in particular that are like the other side of the coin for each other. One is that they really like somebody, they feel very connected to them, and they're like, okay, we got to partner together. But they actually don't have compatible philosophy or compatible expertise. And so it doesn't really go anywhere. It doesn't really develop business for each other. And then the flip side of that is that it fits in all ways, except you don't click with that person. So because one of the things that is so essential is having that connection, because partnership can be hard and you've got to be able to be vested in it. And when you care about somebody and really like them, that can really help. So I really advise if everything looks perfect, except you don't particularly like the person, that doesn't work either. And I know a lot of people try to give people chances and let's see how this goes. But at the end of the day, if you don't click, it's not going to be a fun experience.
Yeah.
So that's one or two, I guess.
Yeah, and those sound like they're major, just to keep at the forefront of your mind, because I think I heard you say on a video that, it's very similar to dating, right? Like, I mean, you're really entering into a strong partnership with someone and you want to make sure like this is the right fit. And there's lots of things to look out for, the personality of the person and, whether or not you're going to be able to generate a good business partnership,
Absolutely. Well, and another challenge is when, because I'm a pretty open-minded person. I actually like diversity. People don't have to be just like me to work well with them. But you want to make sure that your audience and your clients and your prospects also gel with that person.
Mm-hmm.
I've had many examples of having somebody come to my group and just not land with them, and have my clients say, why did you bring them in? Yeah, they're really smart, they have great expertise, but they don't seem to fit you.
Yeah.
And so that's something to be aware of too, is making sure that their energy fits your energy from a friend standpoint.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Well, what are the types of partnerships that we can get into? Just so people are familiar, because I know I think I've just had this kind of generic image of, what a partnership is. And it was really interesting to hear. And I'd love the audience to hear, the different types of partnerships, because that is just helpful to know, so we can go out there and we can create something that, is beneficial to everybody.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let's talk about what strategic alliances are. There are 6 major ones, but I want people to understand the definition before we go into those, so they understand. So it's really a mutually beneficial relationship with formal agreements in place that enhance the growth and prosperity of your business. So this is not somebody sending you a referrals every now and again. It's something where you've had an agreed upon formal agreement. And a formal agreement can be an email where we've agreed to these things. It doesn't have to be a huge contract.
Okay.
But there's that skin in the game that, yes, we've agreed to this. So I have lots of people that send me referrals. I have lots of people I send referrals to. Every once in a while, I'll promote somebody because I really love their product, but they're not necessarily a formal strategic alliance. Okay. So I just want to make that clear. Mm-hmm. So the different types, there's 6 different types. And before I dive into that, it's great when you find somebody that can be more than one. Mm-hmm. In fact, if you can find somebody who can be 4 or 5 of them, that's a lot of leverage in your business. Yeah. But I like to make the distinction so that people can wrap their brains around it. So the first one is a referral partner. And that means that I am referring business to you, you're referring business to me, or vice versa. Not necessarily tit for tat, as long as it is an equal energy exchange.
Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit more about what creates that equal energy exchange. But oftentimes people go into strategic alliances and say, okay, I'll send you a referral if you send me one. And it's almost like a scoreboard. Mm. And that typically doesn't work so well. But you want to find an agreement, because there's some people I refer business to that never refer business to me. But there are other ways they add and enhance my business. Mm. So, and I'll talk about some of those ways.
Cool.
So the second one is a promotional partner, and promotional partners will promote your business or you promote them or vice versa. And I forgot to mention this with referral partners, but there can be a money exchange as part of a promotional partner or a referral partner. Sometimes that's what makes it an equal energy exchange. And sometimes it's just out of the goodness of our hearts because we see that it, at the end of the day, it becomes an equal energy exchange. But with promotional partners, when it's one-on-one work, it's usually no more than 10%. If it's a program or product, it can be anywhere from 30 to 60%. Mm-hmm. And then we've got collaboration partners, and those are people that you actually collaborate with. That could be a workshop, a joint event, a joint speaking presentation. It could be like Lou and I, who he did the assessments, and we worked together on analyzing those assessments, and I went off and coached that person on how to move forward based on what we learned. So there's a lot of different ways you can collaborate, but typically you see them with events, workshops, that sort of thing. And then we have the extension partner. So as I mentioned, I had one earlier on in my career where essentially I had a business card, an email address that had them as my, sorry, I'm hearing a little echo, so I'm like pausing every once in a while because I hear myself in my ear.
Oh, okay.
But with the extension partner, essentially, you can look like you're an employee, although I very much recommend that it be transparent with the clients that you're not, because you don't want the world out there thinking that you're an employee of this company or you have your own business. But oftentimes, the business comes to the extension partner umbrella, and they hire and pay you. And typically in those scenarios, they're keeping a big percentage of that revenue. Sometimes it's only 20%, but oftentimes it's 60 or 70%. Mm-hmm. So the advantage of that is if you're new in business, it gives you some regular income and some experience, gets you that collaboration need. But it's I usually say not to have it be more than 25% of your business because you get paid a lot less. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then we've got expert team members. So Sarah, you're one of mine, where you look at, okay, who else do my clients need to be effective in their work or their business or whatever we're supporting them, whatever transformation we're doing. So like as a business coach, I've got a web person, copywriter, I can have a writing coach, a video person, so in those situations, you can do a revenue share. I choose not to most of the time. because it's such a win for my clients. I'd rather have them get preferred pricing so that they can afford it and really move forward with their momentum.
Right.
So that's usually how I work it. But a lot of people do have a revenue share with that as well.
Yeah.
And the last is joint venture partnerships or JV partnerships. And what's interesting is that in our industry, we hear strategic alliances referred to as JV partnerships, but it's really a misnomer, because a joint venture partnership is when two or more entities come together to form another entity, legal entity, that they invest into, and it becomes its own company, basically. So you see those all the time in the corporate world, but it's the most advanced form of strategic alliances. Is really like marriage. So you don't want to do that right out of the gate. You definitely want to collaborate first or do other types of partnerships first to make sure it's a really good match.
Yeah, wonderful. And I know that you talk about, the different levels of getting into these partnerships, like building a foundation and then going on to, at the end, get to the point where you're working together really well and optimizing, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. You've studied hard. I love it.
Yeah.
There's really 4 major levels. When I work with my clients, I get into the more details where there's really more like 7. But essentially, foundation is first. And that's really determining, do we have the 6 P's that I'll talk about? Are we compatible? Is there financial opportunities for us? And making sure that we really are a match. And then the next one is collaboration, where you choose one thing first, and you collaborate, you talk about it. How did it go? Do we want to do it again? How can we improve? And that's a big mistake that people make, is they go right from foundation to formal agreement.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of disappointment that can happen with that, because people create this big plan and then they start to get into it and they start to get a bit of buyer's remorse, and it can create conflict, and a lot of those tend to fall apart because it gets awkward. So this is really open communication. You collaborate on one thing. The intent is to have, a post-mortem. How did it go? What can we do better? Do we want to intentionally, with intention, do we want to work together going forward? And if the answer is yes, then you formalize. Okay, what other things can we do? And I do think that you want to look at that, 3-6 months out. You don't want to create this huge plan. Take it in baby steps, but you formalize and say, here are the 3 things that we're going to do together, and create a plan.
Yeah. With
both the strategy and the execution plan. And then the last step is optimization. How do we keep improving this relationship, deepen this relationship, bring it to the next level? And sometimes, like Lou and I, when I changed to working with business owners, occasionally used his assessments, but our relationship changed because my business changed. And that's a natural thing that happens. If we are doing our businesses right, they're never staying the same. They're growing, they're changing. And sometimes the partners that are great for us right now, 3 years from now, will be less than optimal. But if you keep open communication, it doesn't have to be a big breakup. It just becomes this natural progression to something else. And sometimes that means an even deeper relationship, and sometimes it means changing the relationship, and sometimes it means parting ways.
Great. Wow, you've had so much experience. This is really valuable. I hope everybody's taking notes on this, just all the foundation and the steps to go through to get to that optimal place. What I really love about it, Tara, is that it's a system. I feel like this whole strategic alliance, like when you first are starting a business, you hear this term and it seems like mystical, you know, like, oh, how do I do that successful, you know, and just the legal side of it as well can be very intimidating to people.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, taking your advice, this is really valuable, and just, you know, starting off informal, like you're not going to meet someone and say, hey, do you want to travel around the world together for the next 2 years or something, you know? That's my.
It's amazing how many people, maybe not that extreme, but it's amazing how people, it's kind of like talking about getting married on your first date.
Yeah.
People do it all the time, and it's because they're excited. And it's not, you know, don't cut off the excitement, but temper it a little bit so that you don't set expectations that might not actualize.
Yeah.
Because that just disappoints.
And everything, it seems, comes down to communication. So understanding what the expectations are on both sides. And it sounds like what you're recommending is eventually you get to a place where you do formalize it, whether it's a legal agreement or just some formal email.
Exactly. And one part about the foundation is really making sure that it feels like an equal energy exchange. And this is part of one of the challenges we didn't talk about was people not really knowing how to pick the right one. And oftentimes there are people that will come to you, I'm sure you've had this, Sarah, where they want to collaborate with you because there's a lot in it for them. And they don't think, well, how can I make it worth Sarah's while? There are a lot of people out there that will just ask for what they want, and we're flattered, so we say yes.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, how can we make this an equal energy exchange? So to be a really great partner, it's really good to come with that mindset of, you know, I might need something, like I'm promoting, you know, I have a new product launch that's happening. So how can I make this feel like an equal energy exchange? Maybe it's sharing revenue. Maybe I can promote them later on. Maybe I can provide some free things to their clients. It doesn't have to be tit for tat, but it has to feel juicy for both parties, or at the end of the day, someone's going to feel taken advantage of.
Sure, sure.
And I have so many stories of people, I've been pretty smart about this, but people that promoted for somebody, and then they go back to them and say, okay, now it's my product launch. And they said, oh, sorry, my promotional calendar's full. And the person was like, what? You know, I sent out 3 solo emails to my clients and really supported you, and you're not giving back. But that really isn't that sorry, the phone is ringing in the background.
No worries.
It's really not the fault of the person who asked them to promote, because it just wasn't clear that there was an expectation down the road that they would promote for them.
Yep, absolutely. Wonderful. Well, let's dive into these 6 C's, what everybody has been waiting for.
I've been peppering throughout our conversation.
I mean, I love the dating analogy, you know, because I'm out there in the dating world now. And yeah, it's like, what qualities should we look out for?
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I want to say before I dive into them is, for a formal strategic alliance, you really need to have all 6. It's not 5 is great or 5 is good and 6 is great. You really aren't going to get the maximum benefit. And, you know, for me, I want these strategic alliances to have a significant financial impact for people, because there's a lot of time and energy that goes into collaboration. So you got to think about how much energy you're putting into this and how much return on investment am I getting back. So we really want to make sure with formal strategic alliances that you have all 6. And keep in mind that, you know, I refer people to other business coaches that compete with me, who have a different energy because that person didn't click with me, but that's not a formal strategic alliance.
Yep.
Okay, so the 6 C's. So the first one is compatibility. And what I mean by that is philosophically compatible. There's nothing worse than being at the back of the room with somebody talking to your audience and them saying something to them that you're saying, oh God, no, I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah.
So you really want to make sure that you're aligned philosophically. And that's, making sure you're compatible in terms of how you see your gifts, your transformation, just generally how you see business. So that's number one. Number two is client, and that you have a shared ideal client. People make this mistake all the time. So it's not, oh, I could work with them. I like those people. As an example, I work with professional coaches. And I have people all the time who work with entrepreneurs who approach me. And for something like this, it can be very beneficial, but this is not a formal strategic alliance because your audience is broader. But I'm not going to, go into a formal alliance with somebody where only, 20% of their clients are compatible with me.
Sure.
So really sharing that ideal client is essential to make it worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people forget that a lot. The third one, which I mentioned before, is that we complement each other, but we don't compete. So two business coaches who have a slightly different philosophy aren't good formal strategic alliances. They might be good informal referral partners or collaborate in some informal ways. But really strategic alliances that make you good money they complement each other because you're not taking from the same wallet share. My folks need a web designer. It's not like I'm either going to get a business coach or a web designer. They need both. So you really want to look for people that complement you and your clients are going to need, either before they work with you, during, while you work together, or afterwards.
Nice.
And then the fourth is currency. So we want to make money off of this. And sometimes currency can be invisible in the present moment, but you can see how it brings prosperity to your business. You got to be careful with that one because you really want to make sure that, I think this will bring me money, but that it really has that long-term potential to make you money. And then character. You got to trust the person. Oh, yeah, that's the one. Thank you. I thought you were waving at me to stop.
Keeping track.
So you want to make sure you trust them, that you think they have integrity, that this is somebody that you feel proud to partner with. That you raise your head high when you say, I partner with Sarah, and you own it and love it.
Yep.
And the last one, number 6, is click. So I've mentioned that one before too. And that's that je ne sais pas. You just really like each other. You feel connected. It feels easy. And that's really the glue that makes all this work. It's just like a relationship. You could have a checklist of things that you want from somebody. But if you don't have that chemistry, it won't work. So it's kind of the same thing. It's, not a sexual chemistry, but a chemistry where you really connect. And that's the thing that keeps you connected when things get hard or complicated or they don't go exactly as planned.
Right. Wow.
So those are them.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing all that. And I hope everybody was taking notes. If not, you can rewind and just go back and take some notes on each of those 6 C's. And when you're out there networking, you're out there even on LinkedIn, looking around for these partners. I know after this broadcast, this is going to be my mission, raising it as a priority. I have some people in mind to partner with, but I'm going to keep these notes And I think everyone else should too. And just, keep twirling these 6 C's around in our mind. Like, is this the right fit? Because I don't know, I have a tendency to sometimes just go for that number 6, like, oh, we click, but then forgetting about some of the other things. Like, for example, I meet a lot of photographers and I think, oh, this person, definitely I can partner with them, but they might just be a wedding photographer. And my audience, I don't do wedding photography. Yeah. Or they might be doing photography for theater groups or, different events where, my audience is more business people and entrepreneurs. So, it seems obvious, like to think about all of these things, but I just think that as human beings, sometimes we just go with that emotional connection and not think about the other characteristics we have to look for. So,
well, I think one of the things is, one of the terrorisms that I say a lot is, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And there are a lot of talented people out there that want business that will say, but I could do headshots. I could do, business owners.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they could on some level, but there's an ease and a professionalism when you work with somebody who this is their focus.
Yeah.
When you start to use these 6 C's as a filter, you really start to see it. That when you share an ideal client, you just hit the ground running.
Mm-hmm.
Things are easier, things are smoother, and there's less disconnects that you need to smooth out.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Well,
thank you.
I think that this is a lot of great information that people can use to get started and get going on crafting these strategic alliances in a really smart and savvy way like you have done. Is there some way that people can get in touch with you? Do you, by the way, do any coaching on strategic alliances? That
sometimes I have a program, as you can imagine, and it's one of the levels in my steps. But I do VIP days with strategic planning with people around strategic alliances, oftentimes, who don't need all the rest of it.
Okay.
So you can reach me at broadviewcoaching.com. And also, when you're on my homepage, I have streaming banners, and the last banner has a video link for Savvy Strategic Alliances. It's about a 6-minute video. And there's an interview guide that you can download for free on that page. So I recommend going there so you can it's a nice foundation for that first meeting in terms of what types of questions to ask to establish that foundation.
Thank you. Okay, well, I just posted the link. I love that Huzza here allows us to post it right up on the screen, and we'll also link it up in YouTube and when we release this as a podcast. Now, we do have some people in the room. We have an audience. Would anyone like to ask a question? Are there any? I definitely want to give an opportunity if there's anyone out there with a question. If not, then we will close up the broadcast. So it looks like people are being quiet, but yeah, is there any last piece of advice that you have, Tara, that you would like people to know?
Well, one thing I would say is, if a question occurs to you, you can reach me at Tara at broadviewcoaching.com. So feel free to reach out. I love to hear from people. And if I can help in any way, that's great. And just use these 6 C's as a filter and start to think, like you are, Sarah, who are the people that work with the people I want to work with? And start to brainstorm who those people might be. And look on LinkedIn, talk to other professionals about what you're looking for, because that's a great way to uncover some potential strategic alliances.
Wonderful. We actually did just get a question. Do you have a moment,
Yes,
Sarah?
the glasses on here.
Yeah, I wear glasses as well, and it's only about a half hour I can go without them. So she says, I wanted to ask how to establish which is the right partnership. She might have missed the part with the 6 C's. So we went over it, just 6 different characteristics to look for. And that's just towards, we went over it just about 10 minutes ago.
Well, let me say a little bit about that. One thing too is you want to set up, you want to use that as a filter. Do I think this person is a potential match? And then set up an exploratory strategic alliance meeting or interview. And just be very overt and say, you seem like you might be somebody that is really compatible for me to do a strategic alliance. And I'd be interested in talking to you about possibly collaborating together to bring our businesses forward. Is that something you'd be interested in?
Yeah.
And then set the stage for that initial meeting and making sure you're asking questions that help you ascertain, do we have this foundation here?
Yep.
And you can find that interview guide on the Strategic Alliance video page on my website.
That's great. And I'm glad you brought up that point, because I think sometimes as small business owners, solopreneurs, we're so used to working alone that the idea of, even just setting that coffee meeting where we're being really formal, we don't want to intimidate people. I don't know, maybe, I don't think it's just me. I've definitely seen that happen where, I thought I set the tone and was formal about, making the coffee date about that specific partnership. And then it sort of the conversation somehow turns,
to something else. Well, part of that is when you to set the intention at the beginning of your meeting, reiterate that, but also say, is there anything else you want to get out of the meeting today?
Yeah.
Because sometimes people have other things they want to get from the conversation. And sometimes it's appropriate to say, gee, that sounds like a lot to cover in this meeting. Do you mind if we set up maybe a separate meeting to do that?
Yeah.
So that we don't lose focus? Because believe me, I practically kept my neighborhood Starbucks in business when I first launched my business. And there's a lot of, especially if you're talking with people that you know well, you just want to get caught up with them.
Yeah.
You can end up 2 hours later and not really get what you want out of it. So really, one thing that you can do, especially if you're like going to lunch or something, you can say, why don't we do this? Why don't we chit chat? We're going to order. And once we put our order in, why don't we dive in? Good. And that way you give yourself some space for that informal catch up, which is really rapport building. But you want to make sure that you have a segue and don't just dance around the conversation, because that's not a good use of time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's amazing. Go out there and be bold and be focused. It's all about focus and, how we can create these partnerships to benefit other people, to benefit more people than we're already serving in our businesses, and help that partner do the same. So thank you so much for joining us, Tara. And I hope everyone will go check out your website and connect with you, follow you on Twitter. What is your Twitter handle, by the way? We'll put that
up. It's Broadview Biz, B-I-Z.
Broadview
Biz. Yes.
And Facebook.
Check me out there.
Everywhere. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
You're welcome. And we'll connect with you again in the future.
Sounds great. Bye, everyone.
Great day. Bye.